G'day cocktail lovers, I hope you've been keeping well, looking after yourself, making the best of the weird world we live in at the moment. I've got a new cocktail for you. This is actually my entry into a competition with Mr. Black coffee liqueur that's being run through Steve the Bartender's YouTube channel. If you're watching me, I can't believe you don't also watch Steve the Bartender. He is without a doubt the biggest cocktail channel on YouTube in Australia, one of the biggest in the world, definitely the premier Australian cocktail channel, and top bloke as well. Sucking up to the judges here, because this is a competition. The competition is, Mr. Black is making a big push for worldwide. This is actually an Australian coffee liqueur, and they're making a very big push around the world. Now, for people who like coffee, they like Mr. Black. Unlike things like Kahlua, which are a creamy, sweet liqueur with a coffee flavor, this is actually made from coffee that the good folk at Mr. Black brew themselves, and it's not as sweet as things like Kahlua. You can see it is very black. It is a dark coffee, and when you smell it, smells like, it doesn't smell like booze, it smells like coffee. I'll let you in on a secret. I don't like coffee, like not at all. That presents a little bit of a challenge if one is going to enter a competition to make an original cocktail with a coffee liqueur. But I like a challenge. I like a challenge. So I thought, I'm not the only person in the world for whom coffee is a bit of a strong flavor. The bitterness of coffee is a bit much for me. I thought, how do I tame flavors? If I want to tame a flavor of a cocktail, I look to the milk clarification method. Now that works, milk with coffee, here's something I can do. So what I am going to make now, and you can see how much of the bottle is gone. I bought this bottle specifically for this competition. A lot of experimentation so far, but after a bit of experimentation, quite a bit of experimentation, I think I've come up with a coffee cocktail for people who aren't that keen on coffee, namely me and possibly you. But also, a friend of mine's going to be very happy because he's going to get the Mr. Black that's left over, and also my various experiments that have led up to this point. But yeah, so first up, I'm going to make, this is what I call the Mr. Black Clarified Mochachino. So first up, I'm going to make Mr. Black the hero. So often when people make, say, an espresso martini, even if they're using something like Mr. Black, they will use the coffee liqueur and actual coffee. But I thought, no, I want Mr. Black to be the hero in this, so I'm not going to use additional coffee, but I am going to use 2 ounces of Mr. Black coffee liqueur. As I said, I'm making a mochachino, so chocolate comes in next. I'm going to use some brown creme de cacao. You could use white creme de cacao as well, but obviously because the Mr. Black is very black, I don't have to worry about this darkening the cocktail. So I am going to put 1 ounce of brown creme de cacao in. Now I could have left it at just the chocolate and coffee for my mochachino, but I wanted something that's got a bit more complexity in it, a few other flavors and whatnot. I thought, what are the types of flavors that go well with coffee and chocolate drinks? And often you get cinnamon and other spices in your drinks, and I experimented with a couple of different liqueurs, but the one that worked best for me was Velvet Falernum. This is essentially a rum liqueur that includes like lime and island spices. It's got some great flavors in there, and so to put a little bit of complexity in, I'm adding just half an ounce, 15 mils of Velvet Falernum. I settled on Velvet Falernum for the spice flavors in the drink, and even thinking that, I thought possibly it needs just something a little bit more, but something a bit subtle, and I thought orange flavors would be the go here. So I'm going with an orange liqueur. If you want to make this, you could use whatever you have, whether it be a triple sec, Curacao, Grand Marnier, that type of thing. I'm using, this is another local product from a local distiller, Marionette. This is their dry Curacao, and again, just half an ounce or 15 mils of dry Curacao going in. Thanks to the liqueurs, the cocktail doesn't need any sugar syrup as such, but I thought a little bit of lemon juice would not go astray for two reasons. One is to do the milk clarifying process, the drink needs a certain amount of acidity to curdle the milk, which is important in the clarification process. The Mr. Black, the coffee might have been acidic on its own, acidic enough on its own to do it, but to be safe, and also actually to provide a bit of balance in the flavors, I thought a little bit of citrus. I'm just doing ½ an ounce of lemon juice going in as well. Now, the milk clarification process, if you're unfamiliar with it, is a little time consuming, but essentially quite simple. You add your cocktail that has to have the acid content to milk, and you want full cream milk, not skim milk, because it's the fat content that's important. So that goes, if you're going to use a non-dairy milk, like a nut milk, it has to have hopefully up around 5% fat at least in order to work. I have successfully done this type of thing with coconut milk and almond milk and a few others. So you certainly can, it just needs a certain fat content. So you add the drink to the milk. Some guides will say you need to warm up the milk. I found that isn't necessary. Some guides say you have to leave it for 6 hours or more. I've also found that's not necessary. Usually leaving it for say ½ an hour to an hour is plenty of time. And then you pour the mixture of your cocktail and milk. I just use coffee filter, a paper coffee filter in a funnel, and the curds will settle and they will do the heavy work, the filtration and the clarification. Usually what happens is the first amount of the cocktail goes through fairly quick because the curds haven't settled and it'll be a bit cloudy. So to get the best result, you want to let it run for a while and then pour it back through, or even just let it run all the way through and then do it again a second, or possibly even a third time. A little tip, something I like to do, is that it's a time-consuming process, so I don't want to use all that time just to create one drink. So I often make the mixture, those measurements I gave you are for one drink, but I often make the mixture enough for 2 or even 3 drinks, just to make it worth my while. So you can see how the clarification process has lightened and made clear the drink. It's a quite clear sort of brown color, as opposed to Mr. Black is very black and opaque. So we've got that, and it should have also softened the flavors, but now I'm going to add some ice and shake it. The reason I'm shaking the cocktail is not just to chill it, but a little trick. When you do the milk clarification, the milk separates into curds and whey. The curds stain your filter, and that's what clarifies the drink. The whey is added to the drink, which does 2 things. One is it makes it's a bit more silky, changes the mouthfeel, as people like to say. But also, it will actually have a foaming effect, much like if you'd added an egg white or whatnot. So if I shake this good and hard, we should get a nice head, which would suit a mochachino. And we have managed to get a nice head on that. So I'll strain it into my coupe, the Hawthorne strainer. And this is our clarified Mr. Black Mochachino. Quite liking the way it looks. Looks a little bit like a beer in the glass, quite honestly. But the big test is, what does it taste like, particularly to someone who's really not fond of coffee? Oh, the experiments have paid off. This still has the character of coffee. There is an unmistakable coffee flavor, and late on the palate you do get the bitterness from the coffee still coming through, which I'm not averse to a little bit of bitterness. It's just the straight coffee or straight coffee liqueur is too much for me. And this, it's picked up the sweetness of the chocolate, it's picked up the fruit characteristics from the curacao and the velvet falernum, and just little herbs and spice flavors in there as well. Makes it actually a really nice, it's complex but well balanced. It's no, I quite like that. Okay, I think I have achieved what I set out to do, namely a coffee cocktail for someone who's not particularly fond of coffee. if you wanted to garnish this, I'd keep it really simple. Maybe follow the Mochachino thing and sprinkle a bit of actual drinking chocolate powder on top, maybe some shaved chocolate on top if you want to be super fancy, and I think you'd have quite a nicely presented drink then. But there you go, that is my entry for Steve the Bartender's Mr. Black cocktail competition, the Clarified Mochachino, thanks to Mr. Black. And I'm quite happy with how that turned out. Like I said, it was a fair bit of experimentation to get to this point, but it got to where I wanted it. So, hell, if you're not that fond of coffee, but someone gives you a coffee liqueur, milk clarification could be the way to go. It keeps the character of the coffee, it takes the harshness out. If you're not a coffee lover, it's a pretty harsh drink. I need to actually share this with a coffee lover to get their impression of it. But for me, it's worked exactly how I wanted it to, so I'm quite happy with how this has turned out. I'm going to finish this off now, which is not that usual for me. In fact, my partner did say to me when she saw the bottle, she goes, "Did you buy a coffee liqueur?" Because she knows I really do not like coffee. So she's a bit surprised, but it's all to a greater purpose for the Mr. Black cocktail competition. So thanks to Steve the Bartender. There will be a link down in the description. If you feel so disposed to support me, you can vote for this in the competition. And yeah, the way it works, each week 3 finalists get replicated and judged by Steve, and there's an ultimate winner down the line. I'm not sure if the clarification process is too complicated to go through and it might rule me out. But I got what I wanted, a drink I enjoy drinking. You might enjoy it too. Hope to see you again soon. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, it'd be great if you did. Hit the notification bell so you know when I do upload. And I hope to see you again soon. I hope you look after yourself, look after the people around you, do something nice for yourself. Maybe make yourself one of these, Clarified Mr. Black Mochachino. Until next time, cheers.